Norman Brinker invented casual dining with steak and ale, and in 1976, he launched Bennigans in Atlanta with a simple goal: package Irish pub warmth for suburban families. Within years, over 300 locations carpeted the East Coast with brass railings, Tiffany-style lamps, and that signature green decor that everyone remembers. The menu delivered exactly what Americans wanted back then, including those famous loaded potato skins, the batter-dipped Monte Cristo dusted with powdered sugar, and the legendary death by chocolate dessert. And then Brinker abandoned ship. In 1983, he led an exodus of senior management from the Bennigans division and purchased Chili's, a regional chain focused on gourmet hamburgers. With the visionary gone, Pillsbury ran Bennigans like any other corporate asset, and that's when things started falling apart. Grand Metropolitan swallowed Pillsbury in 1989, but here's the killer detail that nobody talks about. As a major liquor distributor, Grand Met was bound by three-tier laws that prohibited liquor distributors from owning liquor retailers. Bennigans got spun off to Metro Media, and the bean counters took over from there. July 29, 2008 brought the end with brutal efficiency. Late Monday night, managers received phone calls telling them not to open restaurants the next day, and employees learned there wouldn't be enough money to pay them for the rest of the week. Workers arrived Tuesday morning to find signs reading, "We are closed, thank you," taped to the doors. One general manager described his employees immediately breaking down in tears because most of them were single mothers with children depending on those paychecks. 150 corporate locations vanished overnight, and analysts pointed out that the Chapter 7 filing suggested major league debt, making it unlikely those workers would ever see their final checks. The Bennigans, you remember, died when accountants tried to quantify Irish charm on spreadsheets. Can celebrities rescue a restaurant chain? Dan Blocker, who played Hoss Cartwright on television's Bonanza, certainly tried his best. Blocker ran with the Western theme and opened the first location in a former bus station in Westport, Connecticut, back in 1963, calling it the Bonanza Sirloin Pit. For just 99 cents, diners could choose from a steak dinner, a giant steak sandwich, or a chopped sirloin steak platter. And Bonanza promised that a family of 5 could eat heartily for less than $6. Early signage advertised casual dining with a no-tipping policy, which felt revolutionary at the time. His timing couldn't have been better. America was obsessed with Bonanza, which happened to be the first Western broadcast in color on NBC. Blocker leveraged that celebrity by visiting locations and turning the restaurants into extensions of the Ponderosa ranch mythology that fans already loved. The chain grew quickly, and brothers Sam and Charles Wiley purchased it in the mid-1960s, before expanding the operation to 600 locations across the country. What makes this story tragic is what happened on May 13th, 1972. Blocker died in Los Angeles at age 43 from a pulmonary embolism following what should have been routine gallbladder surgery. He never saw his steakhouse empire peak, and he never watched it decline either. A competitor called Ponderosa emerged around the same time, named after the Cartwright Ranch from the show, and the two chains battled for decades until Metro Media acquired Bonanza in September 1989 and combined them. Fewer than 80 locations survive today between both brands. Dan Blocker's dream died from the very cost-cutting that once made it affordable, and the man himself wasn't even alive to watch it happen. If declining quality sounds bad, buckle up, because our next chain literally killed its customers. Before Chipotle dominated every strip mall in America, Chi-Chi's was Mexican food for millions of families. The chain opened in 1975, founded by restaurateur Marno McDermott and former Green Bay Packers player Max McGee. Here's the detail that makes this story fascinating. McGee will forever be remembered as the first player to score a touchdown in the history of the Super Bowl, and he did it while playing hungover because he didn't expect to get on the field. That same gambler's spirit built Chi-Chi's. The first restaurant opened in Richfield, Minnesota, in a building that had previously been an A&P supermarket, with McGee and McDermott each putting up $300,000 to start the project. Like servers shouted Chi-Chi while carrying sizzling fajita platters to tables. The free chips and salsa became legendary. By the 1990s, over 200 locations made it a weekly tradition for families across America, and a 1982 Time magazine story noted the company had reached a value of more than $1 billion from their initial $600,000 investment. November 2003 changed everything. An outbreak occurred at a Chi-Chi's restaurant at Beaver Valley Mall in Monica, Pennsylvania, about 25 miles northwest of Pittsburgh, and the source turned out to be green onions imported from 3 farms in Mexico. What followed remains the largest hepatitis A outbreak in American history, with over 650 people contracting the illness and 4 dying from it. Many suffered debilitating consequences, including one man who needed a liver transplant. A mass vaccination clinic opened at Beaver County Community College, and over 9,000 people received shots trying to prevent further spread. Chi-Chi's had actually filed for bankruptcy a month before the outbreak hit, and the lawsuits finished them off. On the weekend of September 18th, 2004, Chi-Chi's closed all 65 of its remaining restaurants. A brand built over 3 decades evaporated in less than a year. Today, Chi-Chi's exists only as supermarket salsa and a ghost reminding everyone in the restaurant industry that one contamination event can be fatal. Do you remember your last meal at Chi-Chi's and what did you order? Drop it in the comments below. Frank Carney co-founded Pizza Hut with his brother Dan back in 1958 after borrowing $600 from their mother to open their first pizza shop. By 1977, they'd sold to PepsiCo for over $300 million. So when Frank eyed fried chicken in the 1970s, he figured he could replicate that magic with a new concept. Brewster's Chicken promised crispy, flavorful chicken cooked cholesterol-free, which was a massive selling point in health-conscious America at the time. Early reviews came back genuinely positive, with customers loving the crunch and homemade tasting sides. Scaling fried chicken turned out to be nothing like scaling pizza, though. As Brewster's expanded rapidly, franchise locations couldn't maintain consistency, with one serving perfectly crispy chicken while another served soggy disaster. The cholesterol-free method that worked at small scale became a liability at volume. Franchises cut corners wherever they could. Quality control proved impossible to maintain. Ingredient costs soared while competition from KFC and Popeyes intensified. By the late 1980s, Brewster's was gone completely. The failure stands as proof that even industry legends can miscalculate and that pizza expertise doesn't translate to chicken. Picture 1980, when Graydon Douglas Webb, a former Wendy's executive, founded G.D. Ritzy's as a throwback diner restaurant concept focused on delivering the freshest crispy-edged hamburgers, hand-cut shoestring fries, and award-winning ice cream. Chrome fixtures, checkered floors, paper hats, and Elvis crooning from antique jukeboxes created the atmosphere while customers devoured handcrafted burgers. G.D. Ritzy's weaponized 1950s nostalgia before it became trendy, and it worked beautifully at first. The chain peaked at around 100 to 120 locations throughout the Midwest and Middle Atlantic states. Webb's strategy made sense. While McDonald's chased efficiency, Ritzy's chased quality, with every burger made to order, every milkshake hand-spun, and every fry cut fresh daily. The fatal flaw was simple. You can't actually turn back time. Ritzy's followed the same pattern that doomed most Columbus-based food businesses of the 1980s and early 1990s, which was expanding too much and too fast before landing in bankruptcy. Fresh fries started coming in frozen. Hand-dipped ice cream became soft serve. Customers noticed every shortcut. The company was liquidated in 1991. When you build your brand on quality and authenticity, you can't quietly switch to frozen and processed without customers catching on. Good news exists, though. After a 30-year hiatus, the concept was reborn in 2018 by Webb's 2 sons, along with a business partner, and they promised to deliver the same quality and experience many remember. A handful of locations still operate in Evansville and Owensboro today, serving as time capsules of 1980s Americana. We're halfway through, and trust me, the next 5 get even wilder. One tried to make pizza an event, another was owned by a pharmacy chain, and one promised unlimited everything until the math stopped working. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's keep going. Let's be honest about Shakey's Pizza Parlor and what it actually was. The chain was founded in Sacramento, California on April 30th, 1954 by Sherwood Shakey Johnson and Ed Plummer, and Johnson's nickname came from nerve damage he suffered following a bout of malaria during World War II. People didn't come for the pizza, though. They came for the show. Johnson hosted live music nightly at the original parlor and insisted it be jazz-oriented, featuring Dixieland or ragtime, and he personally played Dixieland jazz piano to entertain patrons. Printed menus included lyrics to classic barbershop songs until the early 1970s, so customers could sing along while their meals were being prepared. Johnson earned a spot in the American Banjo Museum in Oklahoma City for his longtime use of banjo music at his pizza parlors. Here's a wild detail about their expansion strategy. According to Johnson himself, Shakey's engaged in little market research and made most of its decisions on where to locate stores by going where Kinney Shoes opened stores. The experience felt revolutionary at the time, more like an event than just a meal. By the time Johnson sold his interest in 1967, 272 Shakey's Pizza Parlors existed across the country, and he walked away with $3 million. His partner, Ed Plummer, sold for $9 million the following year. And then someone actually tasted the pizza. Complaints were consistent: greasy, bland, poorly presented, forgettable crust. Entertainment compensated for mediocre food for years. But by the late 1980s, customers had real options. Pizza Hut offered better pizza. Dominoes delivered faster. Local pizzerias crushed chain quality. The banjos and pianos were out by 1975. One by one, the 17 Shakey's franchises in Minnesota disappeared. When you build on spectacle instead of substance, people eventually realize they're paying $15 for a show and $2 pizza. Today, Shakey's thrives internationally with over 300 locations in the Philippines alone, but only about 50 remain in America, mostly in Southern California. Here's a sentence that should never exist. In the 1970s, Walgreens decided to compete with Denny's. Yes, the pharmacy chain thought they could crack the restaurant business. Wags launched in 1976 as a spin-off of the small restaurants inside Walgreens drugstores, becoming a 24-hour diner concept built adjacent to drugstores across the Midwest and Florida. The chain was comparable to 24-hour diners like Denny's, though at the time it was seen as a competitor to Woolworth's counters. To make sure customers recognized the brand, the Wags logo was written out in the exact same font that Walgreens has used since the 1940s. Customers could shop for toiletries, then grab breakfast right next door. Convenience and efficiency were the selling points. Wags even had its own mascot named Waggles, a cartoon raccoon that adorned the kids' menu. In practice, Walgreens learned that pharmaceutical expertise doesn't transfer to pancakes. The chain peaked at 91 locations. The core problem was obvious to everyone except executives. The food was bad. Not offensively bad, just aggressively forgettable in every way. Walgreens finally gave up on Wags in 1988 and sold all 91 restaurants to Marriott Corporation. Marriott spent 3 years with the chain before giving up and shuttering the diners for good. Most locations became Shoney's or IHOPs afterward. Walgreens retreated to filling prescriptions and pretended the restaurant experiment never happened. I'll feed you like there's no tomorrow. That slogan belonged to Beefsteak Charlie's, and they meant every word of it. The name originated from a single Manhattan restaurant around 1910, when Charles W. Chesser opened his first establishment, and a sports editor for the New York Morning Telegraph nicknamed him Beefsteak Charlie. The restaurant filled up with horse racing photographs, and the specialty was a steak sandwich. Jazz musicians turned it into a hangout through the 1950s and 60s. The Beefsteak Charlie's chain started in early 1976 when restaurateur Larry Ellman, whose steak and brew chain had filed for Chapter 11 reorganization in fall 1975, licensed the name and built something audacious: unlimited everything. For a flat rate, customers could attack an epic salad bar and drink as much beer, wine, or sangria as they wanted. Giant bowls of unlimited pre-peeled shrimp sat on that salad bar and became the most popular item, gluttony packaged as value. By 1984, the chain had over 60 locations, primarily on the East Coast. The concept became so embedded in culture that SNL parodied it as Pre-Chew Charlie's, a steakhouse where waiters chew your food for you. Unlimited everything has a fatal flaw, though, and that flaw is math. The model relied on customers eating moderate amounts, but when people took unlimited seriously, and they absolutely did, profit margins evaporated. In August 1987, Bombay Palace Restaurants acquired the chain, and at the time of the merger, 48 locations remained, while 20 had already closed, and the company had lost $20 million since 1984. Bombay filed for bankruptcy 2 years later with only 35 outlets remaining. The slogan turned darkly prophetic. Tomorrow came, and there was no Beefsteak Charlie's. In 1967, local poultry processor Clarence Hartwig opened The Gobbler, a motel, supper club, and roadside attraction in Johnson Creek, Wisconsin, that looked like a UFO serving turkey. Fort Atkinson architect Helmut Ajango designed the building. The menu featured turkey, prime rib, and steak, and the centerpiece was a rotating circular bar that completed one revolution every 80 minutes. This wasn't just a restaurant, it was a roadside attraction that drew travelers from miles around, and that's when things got truly wild. In 1970, Hartwig added The Roost, a circular dance floor suspended from the ceiling over the rotating bar. Across the street, the Gobbler Motel featured 49 rooms with symbol-shaped waterbeds, including heart shapes, 8-track players, round sunken bathtubs, and differently colored shag carpet that extended up the walls in each themed room. According to a 1978 newspaper article, it required 2 maids to make the round waterbeds, with the maids hanging by one arm and stretching out a stockinged foot to smooth away wrinkles. There's also a lawsuit detail most people don't know about. In 1974, the Wisconsin Equal Rights Division ruled that the restaurant violated the rights of 2 women by firing them for refusing to wear uniforms different from male employees. Male waiters wore tuxedos, while female waitresses were required to wear black briefs, fishnet stockings, and V-necked hunting jackets. That ruling became the first to find sex discrimination on the basis of uniforms. For a brief moment in the 1970s, the Gobbler was legitimately cool. Space-age design felt modern. The revolving bar sparked conversations. Novelty wears off, though. Traffic declined sharply over the years. In late May 1992, the restaurant permanently ceased operations, and a newspaper article noted that only 7 tables of about 40 tables were occupied during the dinner rush at the end. Good news exists on this one. The original restaurant building reopened as the Gobbler Theater in late 2015, and the rotating bar still works. The motel wasn't so lucky. The Johnson Creek Fire Department burned it down as a practice fire for their firefighters. We'll close with a chain that had everything except the ability to keep what made it great. Gino's Hamburgers was founded in Baltimore, Maryland by Baltimore Colts defensive end Gino Marchetti and running back Alan Amecha, along with Joe Campanella and Louis Fisher back in 1957. Colts owner Carol Rosenblum told Marchetti directly, "You have a name and a following, so it made sense to live in Baltimore year-round and go into business." The timing couldn't have been better. The following April, Amisha Gino Foods Incorporated opened its first Gino's restaurant, funded in part by a portion of Marchetti's $4,674 championship share from the 1958 NFL Championship, which many still call the greatest game ever played. The star item was the Gino Giant, a double patty stacked creation with special sauce that predated and competed directly with McDonald's Big Mac. Muhammad Ali sang its praises in TV commercials. By 1969, Gino's had 100 locations in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey. And in Philadelphia, at least it was the most popular of the 15-cent hamburger chains. The operation eventually grew to 359 restaurants. The chain even licensed Kentucky Fried Chicken for the Mid-Atlantic region, selling both brands under one roof. Sports celebrity plus quality burgers created instant buzz that lasted for years. And then corporate made what might be the worst decision in fast food history. They discontinued the Gino Giant. Executives wanted to modernize by removing fan favorites, including the defining burger that built the brand. Customer backlash came immediately and viciously. Sales collapsed. In 1982, Marriott Corporation acquired Gino's 359 company-owned locations and abandoned the name in favor of their Roy Rogers restaurants. The brand, built by NFL legends, beloved by millions across the East Coast, disappeared overnight. A new group of restaurants under the Gino's name started in 2010, with Marchetti and original staffers involved in the revival. The original magic couldn't be recreated, though. When you betray your core product for corporate strategy, customers remember for a very long time. 10 restaurant chains, billions in revenue, millions of memories, all gone because of the same failures: corporate greed, quality decline, poor management, and the delusion that brand loyalty beats bad food. Which one hit hardest for you? Which restaurant do you miss the most? Was it Bennigan's potato skins, Chi-Chi's fajitas, or Beefsteak Charlie's unlimited shrimp? Drop your memories in the comments below. And if you want more nostalgic deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more stories about the things we loved and lost. Thanks for watching.